You come from the stars, you know. We all do. You, me, all the ones who lived before us, and all the ones yet to come. The stars were our first home, in the time when we were only souls, waiting to be formed by clay and born into a body. The second was water, when we were held in the wombs of our mothers, carried by the ocean wave echoes of her voice, two hearts beating as one. And the third is earth, where our lungs met air for the first time and we sung ourselves into being. This is the home where our bodies and our minds, our hearts and our spirits get to feel what it is to be alive. We are only really here for a little while, a certain number of breaths. We are but a glimpse in the lifetime of the universe, but each and every one of us comes to earth bearing a gift and a purpose. We are part of the great turning of all things, the miracle of life. We are a link in the chain of a lineage of relations woven into marrow and bone, and it is our responsibility to ask ourselves, why are we here? There was a long time when the earth lived and didn't know human beings yet. There were times where all the land was made of ice. There were times of great fire, of roaring water, and giant beings that roamed the land. Millions of years passed, and the earth transformed herself over and over again until the upheaval and the chaos of her changing came into balance, just enough to hold us. When the first humans started to walk upon the earth, they did so gently. They knew every footstep was a weight upon the skin of her body. Every misstep could harm her. But every song, every dance, every time they thanked the water and planted the seeds and tended the hearts of each other, every time the children laughed, she smiled. The earth has never needed us to survive, but somehow the universe called us into being anyway. She gives us everything we need to live and only asks for one thing, for us to take care of her in return. Can you do this? Can we do this? For thousands and thousands of years, indigenous nations across every continent have heeded this call and are still. They have always been leading the way. Generation to generation, lifeways were built through listening to the wisdom of a place, stories rising out of the land, taking form in the bone marrow and the dreams and the voices of the people. And this knowledge was carried forward, lifetime to lifetime, weaving through time and space. There is no greater love than this. Everything we need to know as human beings rises from the land. This is the place where stories are born, and the metamorphosis of knowledge takes root and flight at once. We are nothing without our stories. They are what teach us how to be human. And so long as one story does not try to overpower and silence the truth of another, all the stories of all the people can coexist. There came a time when many humans began to lose their way. Their minds were filled with forgetting. They severed their roots and traveled across the sea to new lands, to control, to conquer, to claim. They were in search of a something that nothing could ever satisfy. They found homelands and called them empty. They found people and called them invisible. Their stories tore at the seams of the fabric of relationship. They built their worlds on the backs of black bodies and stolen lands and silenced grief. Over time, these stories grew louder, and more began to drink from the waters of them, clouded in myths of separation and scarcity. These stories allowed the people to forget their original responsibilities and to step heavy on the earth. They ripped her open and extracted the oil from her body. They poisoned and pillaged and dammed her river veins. They tore down her forests. They mined the marrow from her bones and scarred every surface of her skin that they could reach. They turned her soils into battlegrounds and forced the wounded to swim in the sea of a world built to drown them. And they called this violence progress. They called it perpetual growth. They called it a free market. They called it GDP. Meanwhile, they were killing your worlds and the worlds of all the grandchildren yet to be born. Meanwhile, the earth screamed. When I was a young woman, I awoke to bear witness to this wounding. Everywhere I walked, I felt the memory of the soil beneath my feet. I felt her weeping. But there were people around me rising up. They were the ones who could still hear her and had remembered how to listen. They were the ones whose love was greater than their fear. They were the ones who still carried the old stories, the truths that rumbled like spring rivers through their bones and in their hearts. They were the land and water defenders. They were the Indigenous women and youth and two-spirit people. They were the ones still strong enough to dream, and they were dreaming new worlds for you. As human beings, we had come to a crossroads. Two paths lay before us, and we had a choice to make. To continue down the path of the destruction, the devastation, and the wounding of the earth and each other, or to come together, to remember our purpose and work for the continuation of all life. And as this tension was building and bubbling and rising, as railways were being blocked and bodies were holding the line, as water songs were being met with police batons, two stories looked each other in the eye. We were all standing at the edge of our truths. This was the chance to fly or to fall. And it was in this moment that the sickness came, and we were pushed into a stillness we had never known before. A virus was sweeping over the world. Carried in bodies, it spread through countries, cities, communities, homes. As the doors closed of all the buildings of the systems we built around us, we thought of our elders. We thought of the most vulnerable. And it is here that our strength as a people lies. We stayed home for them. And as we did this, the virus began to peel back the layers of the myths we had been telling ourselves. It was tearing away the story we had been living under. Whose story was this? Who was it serving? Who does it serve to make dumps of the oceans? Who does it serve to bulldoze the last of the old growth? Who does it serve to leave the homeless unhomed? Who does it serve to abandon the elders? To push young mothers to desperation, children to starvation, to underwage and enslave, incarcerate and chain, to let oceans rise and swallow the homelands of those who did nothing to swell her. All this suffering and a silly story called No Other Way. As the virus seeped into the world, grief followed close behind. We could no longer run from ourselves. We had to stop and look at our lives, look at every human life, and take a breath together. And all the while this was happening, the birds kept singing. Spring refused to be still, and it happened all around us. The birds sang songs of joy and arrival, of celebration. They took to the trees and wove the soundtrack through our minds of the opportunity that lay before us. We were being given another chance to transform, to dream a collective dream, to carve a path out of the rubble. The birds gave me hope that there was a way, that we could exist on this earth and not have to abandon our responsibilities to her, and that we didn't have to settle for anything less. And I'm smiling now, because as I remember this, I realize you've never known another way. I smile because you are living in the after of what I could not ever have imagined then. I smile because you are the proof and the knowing and the truth that dreams matter, and that sometimes that's all we are. And there will be times in this life that will come without warning, that will push you to the edge where you will look around and not see a world that can hold you, and it will feel like the bedrock is crumbling beneath your feet, and it will be your dreams that are the only thing you can hold on to. They are our lifeline. And as the earth begins to heal beneath us, we heal too. You are made of rivers as much as you are the blood that flows through your veins. You are made of soil as much as the cells of your skin and your bones. You are as much the sky as the air that fills your lungs and the song that leaves your body when you mix breath and spirit and love and let it rise. You are as much the waves as you are the heart that pulses in your chest, rolling in, rolling out. You are as much stardust as all the matter that forms your body and the soul that will one day return to them. And you are as much the seeds as you are a child of the earth. You share the same mother. So this world you see now that wraps its arms around you wasn't always here. It was dreamed into existence by the ones who dared to do so in a time when fear tried to swallow us whole. We kept dreaming for you because we knew there was nothing else that mattered more. So remember this story. Call upon it when you need it, to feel the strength you rise from, to know you have the power to breathe new worlds into being, so long as you never stop dreaming, so long as you never stop looking up at those stars and remembering yourself.